This is the mid-module review for Module 1. All of these bullet points that are on here need to be the items that you need to know how to do. So we're going to go over some of the items that we need to do, and we're going to start right here. We're going to read the direction. We need to compare these numbers using the inequality, so we need to make sure we have those symbols and put them into the answer. We must rewrite all the decimals in standard form. That's another direction. And we must stack the numbers. So as we see right here, they're already in standard form. So I'm going to just stack my numbers. And when I stack my numbers, lining them up by their decimals, which is lining them up by their place values, I see that I have to add some zeros in to make these all have the same number of digits. When I do that, right away I can see that this one is larger. So I'm going to put in that 9/10 is less than 997 thousandths. So I'm going to look at the next problem. This time it is not in standard form. It is in unit form, so I need to turn it to standard form. So they're talking about hundredths and thousandths. So I'm going to take my decimal point. We have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. I'm going to first fill in that I have 5 hundredths, and then I have 2 thousandths. Well, when I look at that, I also need to fill in a 0 into my tenths place. I can't leave that empty. Now I can go to the side and I can stack my two numbers because the other one is already in standard form. So I have 52 thousandths and I have 25 thousandths. And when I compare the two of them, I notice that this one is larger. Once again, we are now in unit form on the bottom here. So we're working with tens, tenths, and thousandths. So we have to have our tens, ones, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. There are 5 tens. There are 2 tenths. The tenths are here. And there is 1 thousandths. The thousandths are here. All the other places I need to fill with zeros. So as I go through this, I now can stack over here because this is already in standard form. So we have 50 and 201 thousandths. And then we have 20 and 31 hundredths. We need to make sure that we add the extra placeholder in there. And we notice that this one is larger. Next is question D. Right here, we are not in standard form, so we need to make it standard form. We need to end in tenths. If I want to put 22 tenths, here's a 2. I cannot go here because this would be the hundredths place, so I have to shift to the left. So I have 2 and 2 tenths. Now I need to stack my two numbers. So I have 2 and 2 tenths and 2 and 22 hundredths. I have to fill in my 0 to figure out which one is bigger, and I can see that this answer is larger on the right. And as we keep moving down, we're now focusing on our expanded form. And when we look at our expanded form, we need to do some things to help some of us. 10 to the third power is just like saying 10 times 10 times 10, which is the same thing as saying 1,000. I know that because there are 3 tens, 3 zeros, third power. So I'm working with the thousandths place, then the hundreds place, then the tens place. So we have our thousands place, our hundreds place, tens, ones, and tenth. So I'm going to fill in the numbers. This is in the thousands place. This is in the hundreds place. I have this in the tenths place. Everything else must get filled in with zeros. So when I look over here on the other side, this time I have a 10 to the second power, which is just like saying 10 times 10, and that would be 100. So there's 2 zeros because there's 2 tens and there's the power of 2. So we're going from the thousands place over there all the way to the tenths place. So I have a thousands, hundreds, tens, ones, tenths. So the 6 is in the thousands place, the 2 is in the hundreds place, and then the 6 is in the tenths place. I have to fill in my zeros just like I did before. Now I have to stack my two numbers. So I can take this number right here and just stack it right underneath since we already are lined up pretty well. And when I look at that, I notice that this side is larger. Next, once again, we have some expanded form. This is the tenths and the thousandths. So we have the tenths, the hundredths, the thousandths. We have the tenths and the thousandths, and we have to fill in a 0 over there. So as we go through each of this, we now can take this other number over here, which is in standard form, and we can stack it right underneath. Okay, and there we go. Now we just did our comparing and ordering, and the next direction is to go back, and we're going to learn how to multiply and divide again by powers of 10. So we're going to start with this first one, which we're multiplying. So I've always said the first thing to do is to rewrite this number and make it nice and easy. So we have 95 and 6/10. Then we have this, which tells us to multiply. When we multiply, we know we're going to the right. Then we have 4 up here. It tells us that we're jumping 4 spots. We're jumping 4 spots to the right, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4. The decimal is no longer there. It's now over here. We have to fill in with some zeros, and we now have our answer, which is 956,000. Now we move on to the next problem where we're going to divide. And when we divide, we move to the left. We're going to rewrite our number to make it easier to work with. And we're dividing by 10 to the second power. The second power tells me to jump twice to the left. And jump 1, 2. It's now here. It's no longer here. And we have 884 thousandths. We're going to now move on to the word problem section. When we read through a word problem, we need to make sure we circle and underline to find what's important. And it says when Mr. Childs measured the length of a soda bottle, he rounded to 34 centimeters. Circle the measurements that can be actual measurements of the soda bottle. Underline and box when rounding. So we have to see if we can make this to 34, and since 34 is a whole number, we know we're rounding to the nearest whole number. And the nearest whole number means that we're rounding to the ones place. So we're going to go through here. We're going to underline and box. And then the 9 tells me to bump the 4 up 1, up the score to 5. Keep everything to the left, drop off everything to the right. Once again, we're going to round this to the nearest whole number. There's a 6. That 6 tells me to bump the 3 up to a 4. Keep everything to the left, lose everything to the right. Underline the whole number, box to the right. 3 is going to stay. Keep everything to the left, lose everything to the right. Then we're going to underline and box again. The 2 tells us to keep the 4 alone, keep everything to the left, knock off everything to the right. Now I'm going to go back to my directions, and my directions said to circle all the measurements that could be the measurement. Well, I wanted to round to 34, so this is 34, and this is 34, and those are the 2 items that it could be. Then it says, next question, to put the following numbers in order, the largest to smallest, make sure you stack. So I'm going to come right over here on the side, and we're going to stack them. And now everywhere there's an empty place value, I'm going to fill in my zeros to make it easier to compare. And the first thing I want to do is I want to find my largest. So when I find my largest number, I notice that this is the only one right here that has a 1 in it. So in the ones place, so that's going to be my first number. And since it's the greatest, I'm going to put those inequality symbols in there. It's the greatest. I'm going to circle it so I know I put it in. Now I want to find the next largest. So I have all zeros in my ones place, so I go to my tenths. I have a 6, a 5, and a 6. So I have these 2 6s, and so after I do my tenths place, I have to look at my hundredths place. This one over here has a 6, this has a 5, so I know that this is the next one that I need to write. And then I go back again. I go back to looking at my tenths, and I have a 6 and a 5, so I know it has to be this one. And then we go through and we're left with this final number. So we have our inequality symbols, we've stacked, and we're in order from largest to smallest. Next, it says to round each of the numbers to the nearest tenth, make sure you underline and box. So we're rounding tenth, we have to underline and box. So we're going to go here, this is the tenths place. The 5 tells me to bump the 6 up. Everything to the left stays the same, everything to the right disappears. So we're going to underline the tenths, box to the right, it moves it up, everything to the right disappears, everything to the left stays the same. Once again, we're going to underline and box, the 5 moves the 0 up to a 1, everything to the right disappears, to the left stays the same. And the last one, we underline and we box, the 6 tells the 6 to move up, everything to the left stays the same, to the right disappears. And that's the end of the mid-module review for Module 1.